Hello again, it's Wayne Marinovich here, your online resilience coach. So welcome back to the channel for another video. Today I thought I'd just give it a try and talk to you about what I'm offering and what I do, and that's resilience coaching. Preferably for men, but for women as well. But I think men are having a tougher time at the moment, and as you can see, being male, I can identify with that, having had issues in my life too. So what I wanted to talk to you is what is resilience? And I think generally we have this idea that resilience is just, toughness. It's strength. And I think it's more nuanced than that. One of the things I want to go through is how we look at it, how we feel about it, and how we take it out into the world. And that's what I offer with the coaching, whether it be hourly coaching or some of the longer forms. Just to start it off, let's have a look at what the definition is. This is Google Gemini's definition of what resilience is. The dynamic capacity to adapt, grow, and maintain a sense of purpose and well-being in the face of ongoing uncertainty, stress, and change. I don't think it's about being unshakable or tough. I think it all has to do with a word that I heard a long time ago, and I can't remember when, to be honest. Something called bounce back ability. Totally made up, but I just love the term. And it's really about resilience is what happens after you fall, or resilience what happens is after something happens, or you know something is happening, and what plans you have for the downturn or the problem you're going to have in your life. And I think this is evident throughout the world where we are now, from a species, from humanity, and from where our civilization is headed. For those of you who know me and been along a ride for a long time know that I love history, I love cycles, I love patterns. That's what I study when I do macro analysis and things like that, to go alongside and complement the coaching. So what is this, and why is coaching so important, and specifically for men? What is resilience coaching? I think the best thing is it's not about fixing problems. Okay, your problem. It's about building strong, adaptable men in a world that's changing. There's a lot of storms on the horizon, and I'll talk a bit more about it later on. And I've got, I don't know how many articles out there about the topic. It's also not therapy. I'm South African. I was raised quite tough, in a tough environment. So I'm not here to offer a shoulder to cry on. You can, it's your wife and your mom's job. We're not going to sit around and talk for hours about therapy or about your feelings. That's really what therapists are for. Part of the free sort of half an hour discovery call, you can call it a free taster session, is for me to assess whether I can help you, or whether you need somebody who looks a little bit more deeper into your past or into certain issues that may be affecting you. Another thing which is resilience coaching it's not life coaching. Okay. On the screen now, we'll have a view. This is the wheel of life. It's various attributes around your life, and you can see it covers all kinds of things: relationships, finance, growth, and things like that. The point of that is you pick a point on each one, and you rate it out of 1 or 10 or 1 or 20, depending on the coach, and then you work coherently at all of them together. That's life coaching. Okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to hit specifically for some of the issues around being resilient in the face of things that are coming. Because I think men of all ages, have started to step back and become complacent in the world. We've got a world that's incredibly safe. Our ancestors had it so much tougher than we do. We have medicine that is doing such wonders. We have technology that's doing even more wonders. We have economic systems that's based on cheap money, and as bad as that was or is, it's allowed us to lift everybody. You look at the poverty level has risen so much because of the way we've done it, and I think men have fallen on that as leaders in the community, and as well, and I'll talk about it, about being marginalized now in the newer communities. What I offer, and this is very simple, is self-development, guidance, and throughout the courses, there's a lot of tools, exercises, which help you come up with certain things, and I'll discuss it a bit as we go deeper. I want to focus on building futures for you and your family. I think it's vital that modern men, or modern masculinity, as you'll hear be thrown out, which is, I hate the term, but I respect where it's coming from, is man needs to be more family orientated, more community orientated, less I don't have to be the provider, and by that I mean go out and be the only person with a career. Times have changed. So to go on to what problems are men facing? I mean, we know men are struggling. You look at so many issues, and I'm going to pop a list up now, which is heartbreaking. And as a 6'4", 120-pound man, kilogram man, sorry, not pound, who played a lot of rugby and does a lot of weights, it's still heartbreaking, and I'm happy to say that. It breaks my heart to look at these numbers. 4%, sorry, 4 times, men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. That's 80% of all suicide in America are men. The scary fact within that is from the age of above 65, it goes up to 16 times more likely to commit suicide. Men are three times more likely to be addicted or turn to substance abuse. That's alcohol, drugs, porn, things like that. Men are 12 times more likely to be imprisoned. 80% of all murder victims are men. 68% of the homeless out there are men. 98% of military casualties are men. 92% of workplace deaths are men. This is where I think I have huge issues with the great work being done to empower women that's leaving men behind. And I haven't included all the other ones here because it's not this kind of video. But the thing that always strikes me is twice as many women are completing colleges as men. That means they're getting into businesses. And because women tend to always date at an equal status or above, a lot of men are now falling out of the dating pool and are being left alone. And I think this is something that really, really has to be addressed and will be addressed in some way or the other. The biggest problem with men, and I know I felt this twice in my life, was a lack of purpose, lack of direction. And I've said this before. When I was 18, I finished school with no real qualifications, and I couldn't get into university or college. I couldn't really qualify to go to any place of tertiary education. And I actually got married, had a daughter, and so that became, I was a sort of no prospects dad, because everywhere I went, I was being told, you need a degree to progress. Yes, I could get good entry-level jobs, which with AI coming is going to be taken off the table for young men and women, but that's another issue. So basically, I got into a chap called John Keogh and did one of his courses in South Africa. It was called Mind Power, and it changed my life. But it didn't teach me what to do. It taught me how to think, and I then came up with ways to do it. And like I said, the second time I had problems was literally when I went through midlife, through 50, and that wasn't any major issue. I didn't decide to go out and sell it all up and go and buy a Harley and drive around the world. But I literally had no more passion for everything I love doing. I was a prolific writer, a prolific photographer, and I just seemed to have lost the passion after doing it for so long. And I think that was one of the areas that I wanted to change and address for myself, which is when I started delving back. I chased up a few old colleagues, found some great books again that I had read a long time ago, went through a 2 or 3 year process and developed a course for myself. And that's what I coach on, because it really worked for me. It's not foolproof in the way that it takes a long time. So I have no idea. I've done it in 5 years, and I'm really happy with a drive and a purpose that I'd lost. I think the other thing that I'm struggling with is a change in masculinity, and I said about it earlier. It's called modern masculinity, or a drive to make men more like women. And when I mean that is I'm pro-man, doesn't mean I'm anti-woman. I'm a firm believer in inequality of men and women, but I don't for 1 second believe men and women are equal, right? I just don't believe it for a second. And so, but as we've defined over the roles from the 50s and the 60s and 70s, and the emancipation of women and the empowerment of women through institutions, DEI, things like that, have lifted women up. Men have had to change very quickly. My grandfather to my father to myself, if you look at us, we have very different views along that journey. And we've all made changes. So this notion that men must become a woman, I think, is a very dangerous slope to go on as we head up into this new sort of utopia of gender equality. As men, we've had to lose things like stoicism, independence, being provider, being protector. We've been told our whole lives, when you have problems, walk it off, shake it off. suck it up, buggy, whatever. I think these changes have happened so rapidly that men of all ages do struggle with it. I know I do, and I understand the need to be able to communicate it, which is why I do coaching, is that men communicate it to me because they won't always want to communicate it to their wives or their mothers or their friends. I think in pushing forward into what man can be is they, we need to be more compassionate. I get that, more caring, which I think we've grown a lot in the last 30 odd years. Extended emotionality, yes, I get that. We need to be able to be more tolerant and things like that. They want us to be more vulnerable, and I get that. But, and there's a big but when I say that, if I look as a macro analyst, if I look at the stuff that's coming down the line, whether it be AI, which is huge, the disruptor, major disruptor, you look at geopolitics, you look at the crumbling economy, whether we like it or not, the current GDP model based on the dollar, US dollar, and US dollar unipolar nature across the world has changed, and it's going to come crashing down because that's what happens. We can't deny it. We can print till we're blue in the face. At some point, every economic system collapses or gets overtaken by another one. We don't know what's happening there. I think AI is that new version, but there's a lot of pain to go through. That's the kind of stuff I want to coach and help you be more prepared for it. But being prepared is just understanding and being educated about it and know it's coming and you're going to hurt, but you're strong enough to get through it. That is why I'm not a great shouter from the rooftops of the new male masculinity, because it's in the words of, G. Michael Hoff, H-O-P-F, who came up with the legendary four sentences. Strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. Well, I think we sort of transition out of the weak men create hard times. We saw maybe in another 3 years, but we're going now where strong men need to come in. And that's the young, the Gen Zs, the millennials. It's you guys who are going to need to be strong to be able to rebuild our world post-AI, post-collapse, post-whatever happens, post-asteroid, who knows. So part of the coaching is I will focus on 2 particular areas. Simply split up into building an inner strength and navigating the outside world. Because these are where men are really struggling. It's marrying the 2 together and to make sure that you're vulnerable and compassionate enough, but also strong enough to handle the thing that's going to need a lot of strength. So building your strength is like I said, part of the coaching is not to fix the problems, but to teach you how to learn. That's always done that. When I had my photography business and I was teaching photography, I always said to the student, I'm not here to teach you photography. I'm here to teach you how to learn the damn thing. Learn your camera, learn composition, learn how to see. Because I'm not me just putting on a shot. This is how it's done. You don't learn. Same with coaching. As men, you need to be taught again how to do it. Now, men over 50, this is tougher. You've got to come up with a version 2.0, and this I know, I felt it. You've got to stop looking back and start to look forward. So as our roles are disappearing in the modern world, which is okay, we need to understand that men have always been disposable throughout the 1,000 years of history. I think Konstantin Kisinov, Trigonometry, great YouTube channel, go and look it up. I'll put a link in. Basically said it, he said, if you have a village of 10 men and 10 women, and the 10 women go off to fight, and 1 woman returns, you can't rebuild the village with 1 woman and 10 men. Conversely, 10 men go off to fight, 1 come back, and you can rebuild pretty sharpishly, You have almost 10 children every year. That is where men have understood. We've understood this role. Being protectors and leaders, we've always understood we're disposable. And I think that's where men are having a problem. And I know I have a problem so that sometimes too. We are disposable because of what we can do. Women are indisposable because of that divine right, or the perfect evolved right to bear children. Young and old. I have no age limit, obviously. I think all men are in trouble. If you look at the high level of young men moving to the far right, it's concerning. Andrew Tate, Nicholas Fuentes, these kind of men who are pushing a very alternative view that I don't like, but is so alluring to young men because they're offering them hope, they're offering them solutions, even though they're bad solutions. But I think we need to value these men for putting their head up above the parapet. This is the canary in the coal mine. These are, your sons who are going to start, if you've got sons, your sons can be lured in by this. So, see this as the warning shot across your bow to actively get involved in your son's life and steer them towards good, solid, manly things, but all the while valuing partnerships with women. This is the key thing, otherwise it won't work. So from an internal strength, I'll just run through some things. Primarily we look at your identity. And I want to help you create a future-focused identity. So we'll look at your vision, whatever age you're at. Look at the vision for the rest of your life. Where do you want to be in 20 years, 40 years? We'll find out of those. We'll look at what purpose can we come out of that based on your values in life: honesty, integrity, compassion, help, giving, and then we'll take it through to what passions do you have? Filmmaking, videos, photography, writing, all the stuff that I love doing. How do you then help other people by doing this? This is why I do this. We then come up with focus, and we help you come up with some kind of idea of what your vision is. And I call them horizon goals. You'll see it all over my writing. It's that goal that far off in the distance, that every time you're stumbling, you look up just to make sure that you'll get there. You never will, because by the time you get close, you'll have moved that horizon goal forward. We'll also look at societal expectation versus the roles. I've discussed that already quite a bit, and where men fit in now in the new world. We'll look at what I call the state, right? So that's your mental state, your physical state, emotional state. So mental state is around mindset. We want to make sure you don't have a fixed mindset, but you have a growth mindset, that you're keen to learn, that you want to that you're not scared of failure, because failure is such a vital thing. We look at your emotional state, which is how you get angry. The modern, emotional intelligence that I'm talking about is very simply, all the great men, Abraham Lincoln, Mandela, Einstein. There's a whole litany of incredible men out there, and all of them journaled. And I do it at the same time, not every day. I don't sit and write diary crap. This is pure and simply, what am I feeling? What are my problems? A to-do list. It doesn't matter. But it's that moment where you step away from the phone, where you step away from YouTube videos, where you step away from all kinds of things that our digital online world has sucked us into. And then you basically go, you know what, I can now chill my mind. And it's that meditation, right? Calming your brain, calming your thoughts, breath work. I do all of that. I'm not afraid to say it. When I was 16, I would have laughed at the idea that I would do that now. But that's that emotional intelligence that we're trying to get to. And then there's the physical strength. Dear God, get off your ass and go to the gym, right? You don't need to run. If you're over age of 35, nobody should be running anymore. If you want to live strong, healthy lives into your 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s, and not have to have full, hips and knee replacements. Running is for cardio of your heart and your lungs. It's not a way of life. Now, if you have a bucket list item, I want to run the London Marathon, crack on, whatever age, train for it, run it, burn your shoes, okay? Something else we'll look at is limiting beliefs. This is a big thing of mine, is because I suffer from it, and I have suffered even more, but I've managed to get control of it. So many things that I did in life come from a single thought, which becomes thinking about a lot of things, and you start to notice things. For example, I'm getting old. Well, I'm too old to do something. I'm too old to learn. I'm too old to learn something new. Conversely, if you're a younger person, you might be, I'm too young to do this, or something like that. And I think these limiting beliefs shape us, and they just put little cobwebs around us, and eventually they become chains that lock us into place. And it's a case of breaking those. Sabotaging patterns we'll look at, for example, procrastination. If you're procrastinating a lot, you'll have some psychiatrist that'll tell you it's based out of some trauma bollocks. It's just you not planning. It's just you not having a way of tackling difficult tasks that you have to do. And we look at that. And then we look at creating a compelling future. A lot of the exercise I do will be, you'll hear about these things about, I talk go back and what would you tell your 20-year-old? And I've got a whole post about it. I'll put the link in, and sweet fuck all. I wouldn't tell my young 20-year-old self anything, because why would I want to spoil his journey of my failures? And also, why would I want to reinforce all the things I think I got wrong? It's terrible psychology, right? You do it the opposite, either by going in anti-vision, which is what I don't want to do for the next 20 years, or you go a different route where you say, right, I'm 80 years old, I'm sitting, and walking down the beach hand in hand with my wife with our dogs. What would that person tell me? How did they get there? What were all the great things? And that's the goal you kind of look at. The other thing we look at, the second part, is navigating the changing world. And, I can talk about this for days. One of the things we'll look at is putting in place lifelong learning, and that's alliteration. How to become curious again. And I remember as kids, we used to be so curious about everything. And then we went to school and they bitch slapped that stuff out of us. They made us small little people who focus on single, hyper specialized environment. Pick a career when you're 10. Oh, okay, I couldn't. And then study your whole life to get there. And then you be that forever. There's many people are changing jobs, and many people who have done that are going to get a rude shock when AI comes and takes that from them. So we look at education, how you go about learning stuff, where to find it nowadays. And it's so easy, but you have to look. You have to find the right people that can help you, and how you create that second version of yourself. We'll go through things like critical thinking. I'm a big advocate of relearning how to question everything. I'm a natural contrarian. I don't like authority that much. But I also don't like, the norm. I don't like the herd. If the herd's moving in one way, you guarantee I will be looking at the other way, just because of stubbornness. But I find that most of the time, through the madness of crowds, people are going by somebody's guidance or some false god they're following, or whatever that be. Another thing is we'll learn through meditation, things like it is learning how to let go of the things you can't control. And I found this a big struggle as I got older. When I was 18, 20, you have a few drinks, other substances if you had them, and you had a great time. You never thought about the big world. Now, okay, I'm fortunate to have been before and after the internet. So before that, we had a different world. But as I became more aware of what was going on in the world, I got more angry at every bloody turn. And that is no good for me. It's not good for you if you're doing that. So I use something called digital minimalism. Carl Newport brought a book out by that name, phenomenal book. Earlier this year, I did a 6-week total digital detox. Just disappeared. And in my phone, I deleted most of the apps. The only thing I had was my banking and notifications, or WhatsApp, to speak to my wife and that kind of thing, and daughter. Now, it's tough to do that, but it's not. This book is incredible, and I've taken some points out and sort of changed them around to fit in with the coaching. And in the end, we'll look at, coming up with some goals, financial goals, strategic, lifestyle goals, prepping for issues. And I'm not talking about prepping as in lone wolf, buy a tent and a crossbow and go live in the woods crap. I'm talking about actually understanding energy cycles, especially in the UK now. We are looking at high price energies. We're talking about blackouts. So go and buy yourself some damn candles or generator if you need to work, etc. Those kind of things. AI, having a look at AI. I can also got a lot of documents that I'm going to be posting. I'll do some videos coming up. Is going to be both a dystopia and then a utopia. I think Mo Godot I think he's CIO of Google, has put it best. It's here, it's more intelligent than us, and it's developing at a rate that we can't fathom. We've burned through most of our measures. If you look at Gartner and these people that measure, benchmark it, it's rifling through at a rate of pace. I think Turing, and was it Alan Turing? I don't know his name. Alan Turing came up with a Turing test to indicate when it was full AGI, alternative generative, artificial and generative intelligence, and the basis was very, very, very limiting. But he basically said if you have a paper written by AI and a paper written by a student, and a blind test for the professor, could they tell the difference? And you can't. I think we've got to that world. So opening those eyes through will help you prepare, and we'll go through exercise and talk like this. So there's a lot of chaos coming. I think I came up with a list, and we can just look at these. Are just some of the things off the top of my head, and it's all included in a new book, which I won't sell to you now, but it's coming. Just looking at some of these: so global economic crisis, AI, mass migration, energy crisis, deglobalization, which is already happening. Dopamine sickness is happening. On a side note, I don't think anybody under the age of 16 should have a smartphone. Political, societal issues, and geographical tensions, which we've got. Decline in academia, we clearly have it. We're teaching children rubbish. We're turning out little socialists at the moment, in the West anyway, and a population problem. And it's not what you think. It's essentially it's population gap, which is we don't have enough young people being born coming into the system to maintain the old people, boomers, Gen X like myself, who are starting to flood into pension systems and draw a huge amount of money out the economy, money that's not there. So there are some challenges. So working with me, what I'm offering. Obviously, I do these videos. I'm going to be doing a lot of them, trying to hit one or two a week, definitely 2 a month. And it'll be free advice. I'll cover different topics. Like I really want to address critical thinking. I'm also going to have a slightly off-the-cuff kind of thing called What's Bugging Wayne Now, which is a smaller, shorter versions of just a rant. I'll get these moments where I'm going to rant, and I'll film them. I think we're all experiencing different forms of the same kind of life. So everybody's different, which is why I have these free tasters, the 30-minute session. You can book it online, and it hits my diary, and we just have a chat, see if we can work together. I then have hourly rates and a sort of a premium one-to-one session. But obviously we need to work a little bit before we get to that serious one-to-one session. So I think overall that's pretty much what I want to say. I'm looking at the time. I'll try and keep these under half an hour, just for simple reasons. Is I'm sure we've all busy and things to do. So thank you very much for your time. Please support me. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you get little notifications when you come to YouTube that there's a new video waiting for you. And I'd love a like of that. And please leave comments. You agree, you disagree, let me know. So as always, I wish you well. I wish you peace and lots of good beer.